If you're still building your AI videos by figuring out every shot, character, and scene one by one, you're making the process way harder than it needs to be. In this video, I'm going to show you how I use the Storyboard Studio inside Google Flow to take a basic idea or script and turn it into a full cinematic storyboard in just a few minutes. By the end, you'll know exactly how to start a new project in Google Flow, bring in or generate your script, create your characters, locations, and props, build out your storyboard scene by scene, and get everything ready for the actual video generation. I'll first break down the interface so you know where everything is. Then we'll build one together from scratch, starting with a completely empty project and ending with a storyboard you can actually use for your video. And if you're into AI video stuff, stick around because there are a few parts of this workflow that can save you a ton of time. All right, let's start from the beginning. Once you're inside Google Flow, the first thing you want to do is create a new project. Just click New Project, and once it opens up, you'll see all the main sections on the left side, including your media, characters, scenes, and everything else. The section we care about right now is Tools. Click on that, and inside the Tools area, you'll see the Discover tab. You can create your own tools here too, but we're skipping that for now. Instead, open Discover and scroll down until you find Storyboard Studio. That's the feature we're going to use. Click it, and you'll get a new window asking what kind of story and visual style you want to build. There are a few different options here, like realistic, 3D animation, claymation, concept sketch, and more. You can pick whatever fits your project, but for this walkthrough, I'm going with 3D animation. Once you've picked the style, hit Get Started. Now you'll land on the first step, which is creating your actual script. This part is pretty flexible. You can use ChatGPT to come up with the story, plan the scenes, or just give it a rough idea. You don't need some crazy detailed prompt either. For this example, instead of the original story, let's say I want to create a short story about a young woman and her rescue dog getting ready for their first road trip together. I'll ask ChatGPT to build the story and include dialogue between the two characters. Then I just hit Create, and a few seconds later, Flow generates the script for me. You'll see it broken into different scenes, with the dialogue and story details laid out underneath each one. Once that script is ready, we can move on to the next step, which is creating the assets. Go into the Assets section, and you'll see categories for characters, locations, and props. These are basically the reference images Flow will use later when it builds the storyboard. Right now, they're empty, so you've got two ways to fill them. You can manually open each section and create the images yourself, or if you want to save yourself the hassle, you can use the autofill options for characters, locations, and props. Just click those, let Flow do its thing, and it'll start generating the assets for your project automatically. For me, the whole thing took around 2 minutes, and I basically didn't have to touch anything. Flow handled the heavy lifting and started building out the assets on its own. You can see the characters it created, along with the locations and the different props that might be needed later in the storyboard. For this example, I've got my main character, Maya, her rescue dog, and a few other supporting characters. It also gives us reference images for the locations, so when we move into the actual storyboard, the visuals have something consistent to work from. And this is where things start getting pretty useful. Once your assets are ready, step 3 is to head over to the storyboard section. At first, you might not see any actual images there, and that's totally fine. What you'll see instead are your different scenes, like scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, and so on. Basically, Flow has already taken the script you created and broken it down into scenes. It also figures out how many storyboard frames each scene needs based on what's happening in the story. You don't have to sit there and decide every single shot yourself. Just hit the autofill option for the scenes and let Flow generate the visuals. After a couple of minutes, I had the first 2 scenes completely generated. I left the other scenes alone for now because for this demo, that was more than enough to show how the workflow works. And honestly, the consistency is the part I'd pay attention to. The same character keeps showing up from shot to shot, and the dog stays recognizable too. You might notice that Flow created a few extra characters or references based on things mentioned in the script, even if they don't end up appearing in the final storyboard. That's not really a problem. The important part is that the characters you actually use stay consistent across the different frames. Once you're happy with how the storyboard looks and you're ready to turn those images into actual video clips, there's one thing you really don't want to skip. Save the project first. Go to Save Story and save the project to your computer. This matters because if you simply hit done without saving it, you may not be able to come back to the storyboard later. The project isn't just sitting there waiting for you in the same way as your regular media. So if you ever need to reopen that storyboard, you'll want the JSON file that was created when you saved the project. For example, if I go back to the main flow screen, I can still see the media from the project, but the storyboard itself isn't just sitting there inside the apps section waiting to be reopened. Since I saved the project though, I can use Open Project, select that JSON file, and bring the whole storyboard back. So yeah, save that file before you move on. Once the story is saved and everything looks good, we can finally get into the actual video generation. And for that, I recommend keeping 2 tabs open. Keep one tab on the storyboard because we'll need those scene details, and use the second tab for the media and generation workflow. Now open that second tab and go into All Media. This is where you'll find all the images and other media connected to the project. Let's say I want to turn scene 2 into a video clip. First, figure out which storyboard frames belong to that scene. Then find those same images inside the media section. In this case, let's say I'm working with frames 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now imagine I want to generate a shot where Maya is talking to her dog during their road trip. I can drag the reference image into the generation area or add it as an ingredient. Either way works, so use whichever feels easier. One thing I do recommend though is keeping the agent enabled. It can clean up and improve the prompts you give it, which makes the whole workflow smoother inside Google Flow. If you're working on a longer story with multiple scenes, you want the same character design and voice throughout the video. Otherwise, you can end up with a character who looks different every few shots, and yeah, that gets annoying fast. Once your characters are set, there are a couple more settings you want to check before generating. Make sure your agent is configured to ask for confirmation before it creates the media. Also, double-check your aspect ratio so your output matches the format you're making. And for the generation model, make sure you're using the correct engine available in your setup. In this workflow, that's OmniFlash. It can be a practical option when you're working with multiple characters, especially compared with VO 3.1. Once everything looks good, hit generate and let it create the clip. After that, it's basically the same process for the rest of your scenes. Go back to the storyboard, grab the relevant scene details and dialogue, bring them into the prompt, add the correct character references, and generate the next clip. Just make sure you're using the exact character references consistently so the characters don't randomly change from one shot to another. Once you've generated all the clips, bring them into whichever video editor you normally use and stitch everything together into the final video.